Hi everyone. So today I wanted to talk about ways to combat impulse spending. And the reason I wanted to talk about this topic is because it's one that it's kind of like one of the topics that really can have one of the bigger impacts to your financial goals, because most of the time impulse spending is what causes us to go over budget in our regular general spending categories, like whatever dollars you have budgeted for things outside of your regular standard bills. It's all those little things that we purchase here and there, $20 here, $25 there, $10 here, and before you know it, at the end of the week, you've spent an extra $150 that you didn't have budgeted for. So I just think it's really important to just kind of remind ourselves of this periodically and just kind of do things to control our impulse spending the best that we can. Impulse spending, it's basically when we make a purchase on a whim without really considering how it's going to impact our financial situation. So in order for us to achieve our financial goals that we've set for ourselves, it's really important to be aware of impulse spending and do everything that we can do to prevent it. So today I was just going to talk about a few tips just to kind of think about to help yourself with avoiding impulse spending. So of course, the first tip, which kind of winds up being a tip in almost every category here regarding finances and living a frugal life, is making sure you have a budget. And the reason why having a budget helps you combat impulse spending is because if you have a budget that you're really determined to stick to, you know that if you're going to make an unplanned purchase, it's going to cause you to go over budget. And that can really be a big motivator for some people. I mean, if you put down a budget on paper and you don't really have any intention of tracking to it or sticking to it, then of course it's not really going to help you. But if you have a budget that you've really spent time on and you are really determined to make sure you stick to it so you can meet certain goals, whether that's paying off debt or saving or whatever those goals might be, you know that by following that budget, you can meet certain goals. And if you don't follow it because you're making other purchases outside of that budget, it's going to set you back. So that can really be a big motivator for some people. And of course, within your budget, it's always a good idea to have some dollars in there for certain little impulse purchases, so that you're not super restricted and never being able to purchase anything. Maybe you might see something in a store that is something that you've really always been looking for, and you see a great one at a great price, whatever it is, whatever the item might be. You want to have some dollars in there for some of these little discretionary purchases so that you could say, okay, I have this much money set aside, I can use that to buy this thing. It's really about having funds set aside for purchases that you might want to make, but also at the same time really thinking about those purchases and saying, is this what I really want to use that little bit of discretionary money that I have set aside for? So even having some discretionary money in your budget, just by having a dollar threshold, it will still help make you think twice before spending that, because you'll know that once you make this purchase, maybe that's now used up all your discretionary money for the week, and it kind of will help you consider if this is something you really want to use that money on or not. So budgeting, always key in almost every financial topic that we're talking about. Another tip is to really try and create some financial goals that are exciting to you. A lot of our goals focus on things like retirement savings and stuff like that that's really long term. And those are exciting too. Maybe you think you might want to retire early or things like that. But you might also want to have some ones that aren't so long term also. Maybe you want to hit certain savings goals. Maybe you want to hit a certain emergency fund dollar amount, or maybe you're saving for a certain vacation that you really want to do, or even just like a day getaway. Maybe you want to go spend time in like a local city and go to some museums or whatever it might be. If you have some financial goals that are a little bit shorter term that you're trying to save up for, those can really kind of help keep you from making impulse purchases, because you can really focus on on what those goals are, and talk about them and review them often so that you kind of keep them on your mind, so that when you see something in the store that you might just want to grab on a whim and make a purchase, reminding yourself that if you make this $20 purchase, that's $20 less now that you can put towards that goal. So just kind of having some goals that are like really exciting to you, that are maybe a little bit more on the shorter term, some things you want to save for, that can really help you in making a decision if you stop yourself for a second and say, hey, do I really want to put this money to this, or would I rather have this extra money to put towards this goal that we're saving up for? Also, one thing that I find really helpful is to just remind yourself how much better it feels to make a purchase when you've actually planned for it. So if you see something that you truly love, but you don't have the money for it right now, you don't have the money in your budget and you don't have anything saved up for it, see what you can do to add it to your budget. So when you save up for something and you have it budgeted for, it's such a different feeling to go out and make that purchase. You won't ever have that regretful feeling that you might get when you're updating your budget and you forgot that you made those two other $30 purchases earlier in the week, and now you're over budget, and it's kind of like that, like, oh my gosh, I wish I didn't buy that, I wish I didn't spend that extra money, now we're over, I got to pull it from somewhere else. It's totally a different feeling when you see something that you like and you come home and you say, okay, this is something that I really want to get. Let me see how much I could save up each week so that I can buy this item. And it's fun to like save up for something, because even if you're just saving a few dollars each week, as you see the money accumulate, it's just kind of fun to do. I don't know. I think it's fun to like, say, oh, I have this much saved for this so far. And anticipation is part of the fun in life too. So by saving up for things, you can kind of extend the joy out of getting that item that you really want. And sometimes as you're saving up for it, your mind might change and you might realize, I don't really need that much. I think maybe I'm going to put this money towards something else. So there's no harm in saving up anyway. You can always reallocate it to something else. But it's really just kind of making those planned purchases. It just gives you such a better feeling than just going out and purchasing something that you had no plans on purchasing that day, and then setting yourself up for, having gone over budget for the week. Another tip for people that have that find that they are very likely to click on sales or promotional emails where, it's like, if you don't get this today, we'll never have this deal again. Maybe try to unsubscribe from those promotional emails. If you want to buy a Yankee Candle, you can find their website easily. You do not need to be on their mailing list. Now, the trouble I have with this tip only though is that I have tried to unsubscribe to email lists. I have spent so much time sitting there going through every single email and unsubscribing, and I don't feel like I ever saw a difference. I don't know if it even worked. So if you do try and unsubscribe and it didn't work for you, maybe try to make it a habit to just automatically delete the email without even reading it. Like if you see, I don't know, I'm using Yankee Candle as an example, but whatever, you see an email from Yankee Candle, just automatically hit delete. Don't even read the reference sign. Just like delete the emails. Don't worry, there will always be another sale on whatever it is they're promoting. And try to remind yourself that you're not saving money by purchasing something that you had no intention of buying. That's spending, that's not saving. So you can always find a sale if you want to purchase something and you saved up for it. If you go to the website of the store that you want to purchase from, you can see what sales they're offering now. You can check their website periodically to see when a sale comes up if you have the money set aside. But you're just trying to not allow yourself to think you suddenly need to buy candles because they're buy one, get one free right now. Well, they offer the same sales over and over again. So just getting rid of those emails for some people, or just automatically deleting them if you're unsuccessful in unsubscribing, can really help with some of those like online impulse purchases. And if you feel like you really struggle too with having apps on your phone to make purchases, consider deleting them off your phone. If you feel like you just, you see something and you think, oh, that'd be really cool to have, and you just click on Amazon and make a purchase real quick, maybe if you just want to get rid of those apps off your phone and make yourself have to go to your laptop, computer, or whatever other devices you might have to make a purchase, putting that little extra barrier and not making it so quick and easy to make a purchase can help in just giving yourself that little extra time to think before you make a purchase that you might not necessarily need. Another tip is to not just go shopping to go shopping. I know a lot of people like to just go shop, and I honestly don't mind going shopping. We have some local little towns that are really cute and fun to go in, but I'm pretty, I've really developed pretty good habits in not making impulse purchases, and I do always have a little bit saved aside for something that if we're in like a really cute shop and I see something I really love, I do usually have a little bit set aside to make those types of purchases, and I'm really pretty good about spending within those limits. But everybody's different, and if you feel like you really struggle with being put in those situations where you go into a store just to window shop and you want to buy things, without really making sure you have the money, or not really putting that much thought into it, then maybe just don't put yourself in those situations. If you're going into a store, try and make sure you have a purpose of why you're going into that store, what you need to purchase, buying that item, and getting out of the store. You can even try and make it a challenge to yourself to literally just go in and buy the one item that was on your list and get out before you get other things. And especially, even if there's certain sections of a store, like I know, like Target, for example, we were walking around, me and my daughters went there last night, and we were walking around the home area where they have like the blankets and I don't know, just like lots of cute little stuff like bedding and whatever. And, we're walking around the store, and you can just kind of like see things that you suddenly think you needed that you never needed 15 minutes ago. So if certain types of areas, even within the store, you find that they cause you to want to purchase things, then just don't go to those areas of the store unless you specifically need to buy something there. So it's really just about kind of being mindful about what triggers you and when you get yourself into situations of spending money that you didn't necessarily want to or need to spend. And then another tip is giving yourself a waiting period. So, whenever you have the urge to buy something, if you can like put it on a list or maybe add it to a shopping cart and save it for later. I don't know how many places do that. Amazon definitely does, and I do this all the time. I'll see something that I like, I'll put it in the cart, and the second I put it into the cart, I go into the cart and I click save for later. And the reason I do that is because it's in the cart, so I know I won't forget it, because sometimes people will make a purchase because they think they want it, and if they don't purchase it now, they're not going to remember to buy it, and then they're not going to have it when they need it. But by putting it in the cart, you know you're not going to forget about it, and you won't forget that that was the one that you found that was seemed like a really good one to get if you needed to purchase this item. So adding it to the cart and saving it for later, it's there now, and you can kind of get over that feeling that you're going to forget about this particular item, because you can always just go into the save for later items and look and see what's in there. But often, most times when I put stuff in that save for later item, the save for later, whatever you call it, like bucket or whatever, things just sit there, because I'm like, I didn't wind up really needing it. Maybe I thought I needed it, or maybe I'll need it at some point in the future, but I don't need it now, and it's still sitting there, and I'm still moving along each day and surviving without whatever that item was. So it's really just kind of, and like I said, it doesn't have to be a shopping cart, saving for later. That was just an example of what I do on Amazon, but they've talked about creating a list. Maybe you could have in your notes app in your phone or a piece of paper. You see something that you really want, just jot it down, and it gives you that same idea where like, you're not going to forget about it now. You have it written down, you know the one that you might like, and you just put it on a list. And you give yourself a waiting period to think about it. I've heard of a 24-hour rule. I've heard of waiting 7 days. I've also even heard of a 30-day list where you put things on a list and wait 30 days. Like you put something on a list, you put a date next to it, and 30 days later you look and see like, do I still really need this? But again, even the 24-hour rule, waiting a week, whatever time period you choose, there's no right way to do it. It's really just about the idea of giving yourself time to think before you make a purchase, because often after you give yourself some time, the excitement will wear off and you'll find that you might not even need or want the item anymore. So it's really just about being mindful about your purchases and not just saying, oh, that's so cool, I want to get that purchase, and it's coming to your door in 2 days. You want to give yourself some time to think and cool off, and then see if it's something that you really truly do want and where the money's coming from. Is it budgeted for, or is it something you need to save up for? So that's kind of all the tips I have today for combating impulse spending. I hope some of these were helpful to you. Don't forget, you can email me with any questions or suggestions at lolasfrugallife@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook at lolasfrugallife. You can find blog posts for each episode on my website at lolasfrugallife.com. And you can also join our private listeners group at facebook.com/groups/lolasfrugallife. And if you enjoy the show, please make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen from. And I would also love if you'd screenshot the show and tag me on Instagram. That would really help in letting others know about the show and that you're listening. And also, if you can please take a couple of seconds to rate and review the podcast, I would be so appreciative. It's supposed to really help with growing the audience so that people can find the podcast and others can maybe get some benefit out of it. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, I'd really appreciate it. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a really awesome day.